Jack Hamlin, president of Summit Engineering Services.
All right. Thank you for joining us here today on the Crude Life Media Network. We'll call it Take Two, if you will. And we're joined today with Mr. Jack Hamlin. And one of the reasons, actually, there's several reasons why we want to have him on the program. One is to talk about this award that they, I believe, won last year, and they're up again this year for it, or maybe they won it again this year, or they're going to. Well, we'll find out in a moment or two. Also, he's in Colorado, and a lot of oil companies, by a lot, more than one or two, have been publicly talking about leaving the state due to some of the politics and some of the other things happening. And also, I just want to find out what's going on in his world in terms of business and where he's seeing some of the activity, what he's hearing, etc. So let's start off by this talking about this award that you guys won last year and what it is that you guys are up for this year. Do I have my facts right there? You won it last year and you're up for it again this year?
Yeah, that's correct. So the award was Engineering Company of the Year. It's part of the Oil and Gas Awards, which is an annual event. The companies that are selected as finalists then go through a 70-plus judging panel. So more of a peer review type award. We were up against some pretty formidable competition last year. This year looks to be the same. So yeah, won it last year. It's based on, project performance, client kind of reviews and testimonials, and just a general trajectory that the company has in the particular company has in the industry at the time. And those awards are given to everything from trucking companies in the oil and gas industry all the way through, E&P and midstream companies touting their safety or their performance. Okay,
well, that's pretty good, man. You guys won it last year, up for it again this year. Stiff competition. Do you know when the award ceremony is, which location it's at, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's tied into the COGA, the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. It's tied into their energy summit here mid to end of August. I believe it's August 21st is the award gala. And so on the 21st, all of the finalists meet up for an oil and gas kind of event and dinner, and the awards are given. We find out August 21st whether we won it back-to-back or not. So it's kind of a real exciting dinner, a black tie event where you're surrounded by peers and competition and colleagues, and actually one of my favorite events of the whole year.
Yeah, those are pretty fun. I've been to a number of those. It's kind of nice to see these guys who work pretty hard to actually get back and relax a little bit. Anyway, let's transition a little bit to Colorado. You're out of Denver area. Did I see that right? Is it Inglewood?
Yep. Yeah, Inglewood, South Denver.
Okay. And some of the comments I've been hearing from some Denver-based companies, actually, that they're not going to be drilling in Colorado due to some political issues that are happening in the state. And then I saw even that they're looking at banning hydraulic fracturing in the state of Denver, or in the state of Colorado. Did I see all that right? I mean, you're kind of my boots on the ground there. So what's happening?
I haven't seen anything about banning fracturing per se. The ballot initiatives that are being proposed here in the state are there's been talk of them for about the last 4 or 5 years. And what they're talking about is a setback rule where drilling cannot take place any closer than, I think it was 2,500 feet within an occupied structure or what they call a high consequence or something area where it's a playground or a school or something like that. And so when you draw these kind of concentric circles around half a mile is a long way, and when you draw all these circles around occupied structures in primarily Weld County in northeast Colorado, by the time you're done drawing all these circles of basically a diameter of a mile, about a mile, there's nowhere left to drill. So it's essentially, if passed, you'd never be able to, none of the E&Ps would be able to drill a new well. And that's kind of the issue they're up against, on top of some pretty heavy politicking around, anti-oil and gas. Just a general anti-oil and gas sentiment around the state has kind of become a battleground of sorts between green energy and environment versus mineral rights and property rights in oil and gas.
I know a lot of times I refer to environmentalism as a religion, because people have become very passionate towards it. And I've seen over the last few years in Colorado just this rise in environmentalism, if you will, to where when I'm staying in hotels, I like kind of just hanging out in the breakfast bars in the morning, taking my time, chatting with strangers and that sort of thing, because it gets you a good gauge on different parts of life and everything. And a lot of people from the Colorado state, they would look over their shoulder before they'd say that they worked in oil and gas. And over the last 2 years, I noticed that increased a little bit more and more, to where what you just talked about, some of those ballot initiatives and everything. Do you know what's kind of happened down there in terms of that rise of environmentalism with, kind of this,
Sure.
just kind of
Sure,
this, they're looking at oil and gas differently, and I don't know why.
Well, there's definitely some fanaticism happening, and a lot of that is part and parcel to oil and gas being infused with politics for one reason or another. There's the sentiment in the state. I've been at dinner when people start talking about some of the projects we're working on, or that they kind of hunker down and whisper a little bit. Because they don't want to catch that flack. I don't mind catching the flack personally. I'm proud of the industry. I got into this industry because I'm fascinated by energy. I use energy. I just got back from Austin yesterday on a jet that burned kerosene for fuel, and heat my home, and I mean all the prosperity that I've experienced has mostly been because of fossil fuels. And for whatever reason, it's really a strange paradigm for me. So I'm 40 years old, and so I'm old enough to have seen several oil and gas cycles. And even before I kind of understood it as a kid, people talked about energy independence and being energy independent. And through the advent of hydraulic fracturing and directional drilling, the American oil field worker has achieved that. And now that they've kind of unlocked this technological miracle, which, if you're educated about it and you understand it, it's on par with landing on the moon in terms of minerals and drilling and oil and gas. I mean, it completely changed the landscape of everything. Gave us energy independence, and now that we have it, people don't want it in this country, or a segment of people don't want it. And I scratch my head at it all the time. Personally, I don't get it. I have to deal with it because I love Colorado. I want to I want to stay here. I want to work here. The oil and gas companies that we've worked with here in this state, they're absolutely stewards of the land. I mean, when you look at the pads they're drilling and the way that they're building the pad facilities and the related infrastructure, it's taking into account safety and environment first, and everything after that comes second. And so you look around at the land and the facilities, and they're not these rickety old things you think of when you think of oil and gas infrastructure from the 50s. It's technologically advanced, it's cutting edge, it's painted, it looks nice, and operates efficiently and with very little to no emission. And so, getting back to what you're talking about, is the state experiencing kind of there's a little bit of an adversarial approach between oil and gas and anti-oil and gas. There is a battleground feel here, and I just take that as a challenge in my job and being in the industry to help try and educate people and do it through factual experience as opposed to this fanaticism that's almost an overhyped. A lot of uneducated and miseducated people in the state around. You hear the word fracking and it's almost ominous, but when you understand A, what it is and B, how it's done, if you understand that, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just the word itself has become kind of a stigma, a negative stigma of sorts. And I think part of that, when I look at it, is the oil and gas industry has historically been pretty bad about educating people and being proactive in marketing and advertising and telling people what they're doing. And, so we're partly to blame for that, but it's people like me, people in our company, people that love our industry that, it's our duty and a challenge for us to go out there and educate people on what we're doing and how we're doing it and why it's impactful to their life.
It's funny you mentioned that about the education portion and how they kind of lacked on a lot of the different things. When I first got into this whole oil and gas media thing, because when I went out to the Bakken and just fell in love with the entrepreneurship and just kind of the whole energy ecosystem and all these other things. And honestly, what I thought my foot in the door would be investigative journalism in energy. And of course, I thought going in that, this will be like shooting fish in a barrel because these, big greedy capitalist oil and gas companies and yada yada type thing. Well, when I got in there, what I saw was the energy companies were about the most honest people in the community. They wanted to, some of the lengths they went to restore the land to its native flora and fauna was amazing. I saw examples where energy companies paid back taxes for families that would have lost land after 4 or 5 generations, and then they let the people keep the land. All they wanted the mineral rights, but to use them, but they wanted the family to stay put. And then I saw this disconnect happen with the politicians. You brought up politics, and this is something I have seen where a lot of politicians have become very inaccessible, even on a local level. They're only accessible to a certain percentage of people within their circle. And the energy companies are like your last bastion for local chatter because they have to be. The energy company executives and CEOs have to know what's going on with the guy delivering the mail, with the guy, turning the faucets and that sort of thing. I'm trying to say the lowest level employee in a kind way, but you know what I mean. It's just the people at the bottom have to communicate with the people at the top and vice versa. Otherwise, their companies don't move ahead. And so I saw that where these energy companies really are a good core and a good foundation for a lot of communities. And I guess I kind of thought, with Grand Junction, and is it Fruitia over there on the western side of Colorado? Yeah. Those are some pretty energy abundant cities. And so that was just interesting to me how that evolution came to me, and then hearing some of your Colorado stories. So I don't know if you want to comment about that, how it seems like the oil and gas companies are the last hope for local communication, it seems like.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a baton to be picked up there and help push that effort and overcome some of the incorrect negative stereotyping, but again, the negative stigma around it. At the end of the day, what a lot of people don't understand or don't want to understand is that in this country, oil and gas drilling doesn't take place without a property owner agreeing to it. And so those minerals are owned. They were purchased property. People own it, and they have a right to it. And the oil companies aren't going in there. The exploration companies aren't going in there with an eminent domain attitude of finding that oil. They're working and paying people royalties for that stuff. And yeah, I mean, so the experience that I've had, Florida isn't so much energy rich, but yeah, that Grand Junction area up towards Rangeley, down into the San Juan Basin near Durango, and then the Piceance Basin, you know, all of western Colorado there. You know, it's up near Meeker and Grand Junction, and that we do a lot of work up there. And when I say that the oil and gas companies are stewards of the land, you know, when I try to have a rational discussion with somebody that's just very passionate the other way, they won't even listen to that type of discussion, even though I've, you know, spent a good portion of my career boots on the ground, staring at the facilities, designing the facilities, watching them be built, modifying them, and you know, half the time people wouldn't even know that there's a producing facility. A lot of the gas wells in Colorado and western Colorado, you know, we're talking a pretty environmentally sensitive area. We're talking Roaring Fork Valley. There's some midstream infrastructure pipelines and that. You're talking Glenwood Springs to Aspen. Pretty beautiful, environmentally sensitive areas. And there's pipelines that have been there since pretty much people have been there. And the people up in those areas, they live in those areas and they want it beautiful and safe too. And so they take extraordinary measures to focus on safety and integrity management and making sure that facilities aren't these ugly industrial things sitting up against a beautiful landscape, that they're designed to look good and work well. And so, yeah, it's been a very interesting evolution here over the last 3 years, especially seeing the politics infusion. I mean, people, again, it goes back to just being kind of under or miseducated about it. The property rights of individuals are at stake here, and you hear quite a bit, oh, the oil companies just want to profit. Well, yeah, every company in the country wants to profit, so there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see that as a negative. But the way that the companies that we operate with, and that's every producer in this state, is, I mean, it's regulated. Well, Colorado has one of the most heavily regulated oil and gas industry climates, and our engineering company that I own and operate helps those companies come into compliance and stay ahead of the national trend in terms of designing facilities and infrastructure that meets or exceeds air emission standards and safety protocols. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of that. I have no problems discussing. I mean, it's part of my life. I have to, when I hear people discussing it and it's misinformation, or I have to address it because anti-energy rallies at the state capitol or you name it, I have no problem having rational discussions with people over it and trying to help educate them on exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it.
I was writing.
I'm really shocked a lot of times at, you know, it's like any talking point. I think social media, in a way, has divided people such that they can read the title of a certain article or topic and they extrapolate some theory or their concept of the whatever topic, you name it, is picked out of the title of an article and an associated picture. Nobody goes and reads the article anymore, it seems like. And so social media has had this strange impact of just dividing people along lines that don't make any sense. And for me, energy is one of them. Everybody uses it. If somebody in this country, if you want to go use solar energy or put up a windmill or move to an off-grid cabin, you can do that. You're free to do that. But people don't. They drive their cars and they use air conditioning and fly on airplanes and all that. And that's one thing that always just I scratch my head. Everybody that I talk to that's against energy, they have this notion of they don't want it, but they use it every day. So what do you do there? And it's been there's a guy by the name of Alex Epstein who's written a book called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. It's been a good kind of Bible for me in helping advocate my position, being able to state my position pretty clearly with those folks. At the end of the day, we've got to push through that stuff and really fight and hold our position on what we're doing for a living, or it'll be taken away. There's no doubt in my mind. I've watched again the fanaticism over the last few years. It's just gotten to a point where it's almost one of the top couple ballot measures in the state. You know, a traditional energy strong state like Colorado is under assault, and like to be a little more proactive and addressing those issues.
That'd be quite a switch if Colorado essentially was able to pass that measure. Is that measure on, by the way, Jack Hamlin with us, Summit Engineering here on the Crude Life. Is that measure on the ballot right now?
I believe it will be. I'm not 100% on that.
Which is essentially it would outlaw fracking in the majority of the areas where you frack.
What it does is it changes the setback distances from where an oil and gas producer, or possibly a midstream company, could place an oil and gas asset, or drill a well, right? So going back to if there's an occupied structure or a certain type of facility, a playground, a school, there would be a 2,500 foot setback on that, and so drawing those circles around all those structures throughout the northeast Colorado, where the primary oil and gas production is, it would essentially choke out any new production, any new wells from being drilled. And so that's kind of what we're fighting.
All right. Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about what you do. I was writing down. That's why I was kind of paused earlier. That you mentioned about the oil companies profiting, that sort of thing. And I get it. 20 years ago, that was kind of a bad thing to say and yada yada type thing. But the fact of the matter is, everybody has to profit in order to make a living, in order to pay their bills. And the thing that I noticed about oil companies, what separates them from a lot of the other companies, is they want you to profit too. They don't want to not make you profit. Now, if there's a downturn happening, they might ask you to sharpen your pencil a little bit. But what I've noticed, what's nice about dealing with a lot of oil and gas companies, is they do want you to profit and they want your business to be successful. And that's not always the case with a lot of other industries.
Now, the oil and gas industry in particular, the people in it, the landholders you deal with, the people in the oil and gas companies, it's a family. And I think there's been kind of, in the last 10 years, there's been a realization that we're all in it together, good and bad, and outside factors like OPEC can change our livelihood on a dime, literally. And so some of the best friends I have in life I've made in this industry. And yeah, absolutely. When times are good, everybody in this country benefits. I mean, energy prices are cheaper, gasoline prices are cheaper, the oil and gas, the field hands and the workers in the industry, of course, benefit from it. In a downturn, it's miserable. It goes from extremely prosperous and fun to complete austerity and trying to figure out, literally, for a lot of people, how you're going to put food on the table. And so you're dealing with these very dramatic commodity price swings, which directly impact the amount of capital dollars being released towards projects. So in a favorable environment like now, you've got an unprecedented amount of capital, private equity money flooding into this market, as well as just traditional shareholder money, and even just some private individual investment. And when commodity price is either on a downward trend or below certain threshold, that stops overnight. And so what do you do with billions of dollars being funneled into something to zero? You figure out how to survive. And going back to the family type feel, I've been in the oil and gas industry 11 years, and I've been through 3 cycles, and the people that I've, on all sides of it, other competitors in the engineering space and professional services space, all the way through some clients up at a very high level, they've all helped me, our company, and our employees get through, what could have been life-altering downturns. And so that's been some of the best people I've ever met are in this industry, and they're not the boogeymen. They're not these evil, industrial revolution, pollution advocating people twisting their mustache, trying to figure out how to ruin the environment. They're trying to make the environment better. They're trying to do things safer. They're trying to use innovation and technology to automate things and to make things safer for the people that work around them and that live around them. And there's really no disputing that. People say that out of fear, or out of passion, or whatever. But the cold hard fact is the oil and gas facilities being designed and engineered today, and the drilling practices and the fracking practices, it's as safe as it's ever been.
Jack Hamlin, Summit Engineering, you mentioned that you do some work out in the western side of Colorado, and are you guys seeing work anywhere else? Are you in any other shale plays?
Yeah, so we're here in Denver. So the DJ Basin is very prolific. Out on the western slope in the Piceance Basin, it's mostly dry gas. Gas prices right now are very low, but there's moderate activity. People have leaseholds out there that they're drilling and new infrastructure going in. So you've got kind of this leaner model out west on some smaller private equity style companies, and then you've got the San Juan Basin down in the Four Corners near Durango, Colorado, down into Farmington, New Mexico. And that's kind of a mixed, there's some rich gas and some dry gas, and coal bed methane, some rich gas, and then also some oil that they're finding down there. And so there's been a little bit of a renaissance down there in the San Juan Basin, although not at the level of, the DJ Basin is king. It's one of the top 5 basins in the country, and it's got a very healthy mix of liquids and associated gas. So we pretty much work, North Dakota down to South Texas. We focused our business in the Mid-Continent area. So we work from the Bakken all the way down through, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and of course, New Mexico and Texas, all the way down into the Eagle Ford. And so we're seeing, our main issue right now isn't finding the work, it's finding the labor to do the work. So engineers, CAD drafters, the field personnel, field engineers, commissioning personnel, they're in such short supply it's everything we can do to get people on board, and we're just so short there on manpower that most of our companies working 50 or 60 hours a week just to kind of keep up.
Well, take a sec. Why don't you go take a second or two, and who are you hiring for? What's the what jobs are you guys looking to fill?
Sure, appreciate that. Yeah, right now we're looking kind of have open requisitions for good project managers with industry experience. We need a process engineering manager, so someone to lead up our process engineering group. We're looking for 2 mechanical engineers, 2 or 3 piping designers, mechanical designers that have experience with CADWorks and AutoCAD, and 1 EINC drafter, AutoCAD experience. Also looking for 2 automation techs down in Texas and in the Permian Basin, and a handful of field personnel, whether it's commissioning, on-site engineering support, construction managers, that type of thing. So it's about a dozen or so jobs that we could fill tomorrow if we had the right people.
Are you guys looking to have them move to Denver? Can they work remotely? Do they have, I guess, what kind of, I guess, fringe
Sure.
benefits too? Like benefits or anything like that?
Yeah, so ideally Denver-based, although the work is some of it's field-based, primarily in between Midland, Texas, and Carlsbad, New Mexico. But realistically, anybody that's in Colorado or surrounding state, or Texas and our surrounding state, I'd be interested in chatting with or hearing from. Our benefit, we offer full benefits: health, dental, vision, life insurance, and we've got paid time off, a very flexible work schedule, outstanding work culture, and just a great company overall to work with. It's got a family feel to it for sure.
Keep the ball rolling. One more question on hiring. Now looking for workers. Summit Engineering. We're talking with Jack Hamlin. You're the CEO, president, correct?
President, yeah.
President. Okay. What's an email address somebody should send these if they're looking for work and they want to work for Summit Engineering? Where should they send an email to?
You can send it right to me. My name is just Jack, Jack, at summiteng.net. So again, that's Jack at summiteng.net.
All right, and let's transition here one more time. Let's talk about your company for a second. You mentioned engineering, you mentioned a couple things, but what is it that you guys do for your customer, and who specifically would your customer be?
Sure, thanks. We've expanded our capability beyond simple engineering over the last few years. So what we are is we're a professional services business engaged in mostly engineering and design of up, mid, and downstream facilities. So everything from well pad facilities, central gathering facilities, pipeline system, compressor stations, gas plants, pump stations, all the way down through working with the gas utilities. So doing gas distribution networks, running pipeline and piping systems right up to people's homes and businesses so they can run their fireplaces or their stoves. Our company also offers automation support, so programming all of those gas plants or compressor stations or LAC units. We have a team of people that do programming, SCADA. We also have a GIS mapping team that helps create alignment sheets and mapping systems for pipelines. We also do regulatory compliance and permitting support and commissioning and startup support. So our company will basically handle oil and gas from when it comes out of the ground all the way through delivery to the end user. And our company service offerings are everything. We target upstream producers, oil and gas exploration and production companies, midstream companies, refining companies, and gas utilities, natural gas utilities. And pretty much cradle to grave, we'll handle whatever service that they need, whether it's engineering, whether it's surveying, whether it's GIS support. We can handle it.
So that's who specifically then? I guess I missed that part. Is it oil companies? Is it government entities? Is it I guess anybody really? I guess.
So any E&P
okay.
engaged in finding oil and gas that would need a facility on the surface to handle the production volumes. A midstream company like a DCP midstream or a Tallgrass, right, that owns and operates pipeline systems, transmission pipeline systems, gas plants that process the gas. And then we also focus on refiners and natural gas utility companies, think Xcel Energy, or whoever you pay your gas bill to, right?
Okay.
Really anybody engaged in any sort of oil and gas infrastructure project on the surface facilities.
So kind of winding up here a little bit, Jack Hamlin, he's with Summit Engineering. Just kind of some final thoughts. Anything you want to mention? Anything we missed? Anything you want to reiterate? I guess I just like to give guests kind of the final word. That way the question's not controlled by me or framed by me. So the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, no, appreciate the time here today, and you covered a ton of great topics, and I'm proud to talk on those. No, just real proud of what we're doing in the energy industry. I advise anybody that's interested to reach out to me directly. I'm on LinkedIn, or I gave my email address earlier. I'm happy to talk to friends and adversaries alike about kind of what's going on in the industry and how we do stuff. And I sure am proud of it. And again, even though we all catch a little bit of, us in the industry catch a little bit of slack every once in a while about it, it's something, when you look at the energy industry in the United States, the amount of prosperity that it's created for people, whether they like it or not, is something that I'm proud of. And I'd like to kind of just kind of finish out on Thursday, August 2nd at 11:30 at the Colorado State Capitol in Denver. There's actually a rally. It's an Energy Proud rally. So kind of standing with colleagues and friends in the oil and gas industry to celebrate the oil and gas industry and what it's done for Colorado. So it's on the west steps of the Colorado Capitol. There's going to be some music, some food, some prizes, some games, and virtually everybody I know in this industry has indicated they're going to be there. So it should be a great turnout. So again, August 2nd, 11:30 to 1, west steps of the Colorado Capitol. Be a great place to see the people that work in this industry, talk to them, figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and whether it's a pat on the back and keep on going, or whether you despise us and want to understand how we do stuff, come talk to us and ask us what we're doing, and maybe we could have a rational discussion about it and come to terms on some stuff.